in all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Please welcome South Korean adoptee, Matt Delatour.
Hey guys. I guess none of you guys can talk because you're on mute. But if you have any questions while we do this, feel free to unmute yourself and just scream it out. I really don't have a kind of like guideline on how I do these classes. I've done a couple of these before. But yeah, let's just like have some fun and get this rocking and rolling. So today I'm gonna be doing Kimchi Pajeons, which is a Korean pancake with kimchi, scallions, onions. Super, super easy to make, but super flavorful and a lot of fun. So let me show you guys. So on my table right now, I have all the ingredients that you're gonna need. So that's the kimchi liquid, and this is the actual kimchi. You got rice flour, you have all-purpose flour, eggs, black pepper, onions, salt, scallions, sesame oil, and MSG. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with MSG, but we are going to touch on that in a little bit when we start making this. So basically what you're gonna do to really make this pancake delicious is, so you're gonna take your all-purpose flour, and the all-purpose flour is just like your generic flour that you use for any kind of batter or something, but cooking it on a pan like we do, instead of making it a dough, we're using a batter. I added a little rice flour to it. The rice flour will help give it a little bit of texture and give it a little bit of like more of a crunch and a more flavor than you would with just regular AP. The eggs are a binding agent, so they kind of bring it all together. And you're using the kimchi liquid to make the batter along with a little bit of water, and that'll help make it into a batter. The kimchi liquid actually just gives it a little bit more flavor. And then your typical seasonings of black pepper, salt, and then very Asian ingredients like onions and scallions. Before I start this, does anyone have any questions for me about anything? I know I saw that someone wants to see chop, so I'll show chop later.
I saw that in the chat, someone asked, is it the refrigerated rice flour?
No, so this is glutinous rice flour. You can find it in any Asian markets. And it's super cheap, and it comes in a little bag. You don't need a lot of it to really do anything. And you can use it in place of flour because there's no gluten in rice flour. It might be a little different, but if you have a gluten intolerance, you can start using rice flour. You can use chickpea flour, and those both don't have gluten in them, so you can make stuff like this. You can actually, if you are gluten-free or have a gluten intolerance, you can just use rice flour in general. Maggie, if you don't want to cry when you cut onions, put them in the refrigerator for an hour, because when the onions are warm, they'll release more juices, and that's the stuff that makes you cry. And also, I don't have my actual onion, but I have the scallions. If you see the root of the onions on a regular onion, don't cut that off, because if you cut that off, it'll release a lot more juices as well, and you're more susceptible to crying. So usually you keep the butts on, and you can keep it cold, and that'll help make you cry less. I'm actually immune to that because I cut 50 pounds of onions 3 times a week. So with that in mind, we'll get started with this. First, you're gonna make the batter before you actually add any of the other ingredients in. So you're gonna take your all-purpose flour and a measuring cup. You're gonna do 1 cup of the all-purpose flour. Some people sift it, not completely necessary. Sifting flour in general kind of just takes out some of the impurities that you get. It also helps aerate the flour to make it a more of a fluffy texture when you're making like cakes or anything like that. So you're gonna take 1 cup of your all-purpose flour, and then 1 cup of your rice flour. And again, if you don't have rice flour, you can also use, cornstarch like Maggie's using. You can also, what else can you use? Yeah, any sort of flour in general, honestly.
There's a quick question from the chat. Rachel is asking if canola oil will work as a substitute for the vegetable oil.
Yeah. So any sort of oil except for olive oil would be perfectly fine for this. Olive oil actually has a very low smoke point, which means that if you heat it too hot, it'll start smoking and it'll burn whatever you're cooking. So I use vegetable oil. I use canola oil, sunflower oil, avocado oil. Any sort of oils, pretty much except for olive oil would be good for this. The sesame oil is not for the actual cooking. This is actually just for a little bit of flavor added on at the end. And that kind of just rounds out the whole pancake with it. So after you put the salt or the AP flour, yeah.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but how much
No,
flour?
What kind of flour are you using, or which flour are you talking about?
For both.
Okay, so you're gonna do equal parts. So I'm doing 1 cup of all-purpose flour and 1 cup of rice flour.
Okay.
Let me know when you're all set. Okay, so while everyone's getting caught up, so we're doing a 2-to-1 ratio of dry ingredients to wet ingredients. So that means that we're doing 2 cups of flour to 1 cup of liquid. So that's going to be a half a cup of the kimchi liquid and half a cup of the water to make that 2-to-1 ratio. Once we have all the flour and the rice flour in, you can take your whisk and start whisking it around. And this kind of helps incorporate the rice flour with the all-purpose flour. So it's not, when you put the liquid in, it's not you're not gonna get clumps of just all-purpose flour or just clumps of rice flour. You can leave that whisk right in there. And you're gonna season it with a little black pepper. I would say just a pinch of that and a little pinch of salt, because we're also gonna use MSG. Obviously, I'm assuming you guys don't use MSG. For the rice flour, it's equal parts. So if you wanna do 1 cup of all-purpose flour and then 1 cup of rice flour, that should be fine. If anyone wants to unmute and say, does anyone know what MSG is?
Yes.
Okay, what is MSG?
It's basically an additive that you add to food, and it kind of makes it taste better, but a lot of people add it into like ramen and all kinds of food.
Yep, that's you pretty much nailed it. So MSG is monosodium glutamate. So it's essentially just a flavor enhancer, just like you said. So I'm just adding a little pinch to that. And the reason why I'm doing this, it's like salt, because salt is also a flavor enhancer. But the reason why I'm using MSG is because there's kind of a myth, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard this, but it's called Chinese restaurant syndrome, that you get from specifically eating MSG, which is pretty much just a lie in general. So back in 1968, there was this doctor, his name's Dr. Robert Ho Man Kwok. He was a Chinese immigrant who came from China to America, and he worked for the New England Journal of Medicine. And in 1968, he wrote this article that got published there, pretty much saying that when he was in China, the food that he would eat there wouldn't give him headaches. It wouldn't make his neck all scratchy. It wouldn't make him feel any sort of way. So he said that maybe it was the MSG, because when he ate Chinese food in America, they would add a lot of MSG to it to enhance the flavors of it. So it kind of goes back to that whole notion of the negative perceptions of China and Chinese people back in the day, which still to this day is pretty prevalent as well. And so people started fearing MSG, which is why you see a lot of Chinese restaurants. If you look at their menus or you go to the restaurant itself, you'll see signs that say no MSG. In 1958, 1959, which was 9 years prior to this article coming out, the FDA said that MSG was safe for you to eat, and there's no sort of side effects to this. I did see a couple questions after that. So if you don't have enough kimchi liquid, you can use just regular water. We're gonna put water in it to begin with, but if you need more to get to that 1 cup ratio, you can just fill the rest with water. It's just a flavor enhancer. You could use all water if you wanted to anyway. So we're gonna do that right now. Just gonna measure out a half a cup of the kimchi liquid. You're gonna pour that right in.
I have a question.
This kind of gives it.
Is this just
Yeah.
the liquid part?
I'm sorry?
Is it only the liquid or also the vegetables?
We're gonna actually put the actual kimchi in there too. This is just, you're gonna make the actual batter first. So you're looking for about at least half a cup of kimchi liquid. If you don't have enough, you can use water to replace that. So I put half a cup of the kimchi liquid in here, and I'm also gonna put half a cup of just regular water in there. And this will help create the batter. I'll show you what you're looking for, but if you've ever made pancakes at home, you're kind of looking for that same consistency with that. So if you do need to add a little bit more water, that's perfectly fine too. I think from the looks of mine, it's getting sort of thick. So I do think that I'm gonna need a little bit more water because it's not as loose as I want it to be. So if you left it up, it's not falling down as quickly as I want and fluidly as I want. So I'm gonna put a little bit more water in there. And at this stage, if it is thick like mine, you can add the water a little at a time to get where you want it to be. So just like a little drop right there, and then whisk that up again. That's what you're looking for right there. So it fluidly falls off the whisk like that. And at this point, you can take one of your eggs and put the egg right in as well. And then whisk that together. And like I said earlier, the egg is really to just bind the green ingredients together so it doesn't really break apart as much. That actually made it a little too thin. So I'm gonna add a little bit more rice flour. Yep, just one egg for this. If you wanted to double the recipe and if you want to make more pancakes, this yields about probably 2 to 3 pancakes depending on the size. So one egg is fine for this, but if you want to make more pancakes, obviously you can add like double everything. A little bit more flour. And this is like the thing that's great about Korean food and kind of Asian food in general for the most part, depending on what you're making. There's no real recipes. Like if you've seen like K-dramas or Asian shows and stuff, you see that like a lot of people don't really measure out the ingredients. They go by the look and the feel of the way that the food's looking and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. And once you get the batter to the consistency that you're looking for, you can start adding your kimchi, your scallions, and your onions. I'm just gonna stick a glove on real quick. You're gonna add about a cup of kimchi. And obviously you can add more if you want to. The kimchi, depending on your preference, you can keep it in the like whole size chunks that it comes in. You can make it a little bit smaller. You can dice it up however you want, really. You're just gonna pour that right in there. And the same thing with the onions and the scallions. It's kind of just a preference. If you're not a huge fan of onions, you don't have to put a lot in, or you don't have to put any in at all if you don't like to. So I'm just gonna put a bunch of onions in here. That should be good. And then a handful of scallions. This is gonna be a little tough because my bowl is not big enough for this. So I'm gonna use a spoon. So now you're just gonna take this and incorporate everything together. And you're looking for a very fill it, like very filled batter. It's going to be more vegetables and kimchi than actual batter after you mix it all together, and try and incorporate everything. Get the batter on all little pieces of the scallions and the onions and the kimchi, because that'll help bring it all together at the end. So once you're at this stage, you can take a little bit of sesame oil. Now, sesame oil is definitely optional. I know some people don't like it. The flavor can be overpowering depending on how much you're putting in. I personally love sesame oil. So I'm just gonna put a little in. You only really need like maybe a teaspoon at most. So this just enhances the flavor and also helps crisp up the actual pancake once you're done cooking it. Mix that around again. Make sure that the sesame oil is incorporated so it's not separating and you won't have little pockets of sesame oil that won't cook. All right, so once everything's done, this is pretty much what you're looking for. So you want all the scallions and all the onions and all the kimchi to come together and have a little bit of batter and everything. So sesame oil is very optional. So it's kind of like personal preference. I added about a teaspoon of oil, but you can add as much as you want, as little as you want. If you really, really like sesame oil, you can use sesame oil to actually cook the pancake instead of vegetable oil or canola oil. So we're gonna let this sit for a couple seconds just to kind of let it combine together. And then we'll come back to it back. In the meantime, does anyone have any questions? Does anyone need time to catch up? I know I'm going a little quickly.
Matt, how did you discover this dish?
So this dish is actually very traditional Korean food. It is actually considered a banchan, which if any of you guys don't know what a banchan is, it's a Korean side dish. If you go to any Korean restaurant, you'll order an entree or something, a dish, and then you'll get all these different side dishes added onto it, and all those are banchan. So kimchi is a banchan. Pajans are banchan. The egg souffles that you get sometimes are all banchan. My favorite banchan, I really like the spicy cucumbers. That and obviously kimchi. And there's also these like super delicious peanuts. I actually had them yesterday when I went grocery shopping to buy all this stuff. And if any of you guys are interested in working in kitchens, it's something that you should definitely know. And even if you don't want to work in kitchens, it's something that you should definitely do, because in the end, it'll help you a lot. Clean as you go. Because when you're cleaning as you go, when the time comes to eat, you don't have any dishes to do. And that's something in the restaurant industry that's very important. And it'll definitely help you in the long run, keep you organized, keep your station clean, make sure you're wiping everything down. What is what? Okay. I'm gonna bring you guys over here and put you next to the stove so you can see this. So the best way to cook the pajans, you're gonna wanna get a non-stick skillet. And basically, you're gonna do this on high heat and let the pan actually heat up with a little bit of vegetable oil in it. And we're gonna do a 2-2-2-2. So that's 2 minutes on high on one side, flip it over, 2 minutes on high for that side. And then you're gonna reduce the heat down to about medium low, flip it over again, do 2 minutes on that side, and flip it one more time and 2 minutes on that side, and then it should be perfectly cooked. You're not looking for a super firm pancake, you're looking for a little bit of texture, but it should still be a little bit mushy. So I'm gonna turn this on high and put a little bit of oil into the actual pan and let that heat up. You're gonna wanna let the oil get pretty hot. You're gonna move it around. So the easiest way to tell when your oil's hot is if you move it around, it'll flow very easily, and you won't get these little drips. You're looking for it to just move. So you guys don't actually have to do this, but when you're working in restaurants, like one of the most important things is to make sure that you taste your food when you before you make it, before you eat it or serve it or anything like that. Now this is obviously just raw flour, raw egg, raw vegetables, and kimchi. So you don't have to taste it because it's not going to taste that great, but I'm going to taste it just to see if it needs any seasonings or anything, if it needs extra salt, if it needs a little bit of pepper, but that's super important. So it's like you just get a little on your finger and just taste it. Doesn't taste that good, but you can tell that if it needs salt or pepper. This one actually doesn't need anything. All right, so once your pan's hot and you got the oil in there and everything, you can put your hand over this and kind of feel if it's warm or not. Don't actually touch the oil, obviously, else you're gonna burn yourself. You don't want that. And you guys can use a spoon or a ladle to do this. Actually, I'll do a spoon with you guys too, so you can see how to do it. But once your oil gets hot, so now you can see that the oil is like moving a lot faster and it's more free flowing. So that means it's getting hotter. So just check again. Now it's starting to heat up. Like I can feel it in my hands. These gloves are so small. For the salt, you can use, if you're doing the 2 cups of flour to 1 cup of liquid, I would say maybe about a tablespoon of, no, not a tablespoon. I would say about like 2 teaspoons of salt. So like 2 to 2.5 pinches, which should be enough. So my pan's just about hot enough right now. You can see that. You want a decent amount of oil so it doesn't stick and it also crisps evenly. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna move the oil around to get all of the pan situated even the sides, so kind of like loop it around like that. And then you're just gonna scoop in your Pajeon batter. You're gonna hear it sizzle. You can start moving it around, get a nice even layer of pancake batter on there. So since I'm putting a cold batter into a hot pan, it pretty much instantly cools down the pancake and the actual oil. So you're not gonna hear it start to sizzle for a little bit, but don't assume that it's not hot enough if you didn't hear the sizzle initially. So we're just gonna let this rock out for a little bit. And like I said, it's gonna be 2 minutes on each side on high heat, and then 2 minutes on each side on low heat. We're just gonna let this cook a little bit. I'll move you guys closer so you can see it. I'm gonna flip you guys over so you can see this. You can start to see the little edges. That's the cooked part. It's not actually like wet. It's starting to fully cook and stuff. And this is where you can start like moving around the pan so it rotates so it gets even heat. And you'll see that it's starting to get the inner part where it's actually cooking is getting darker and darker. I also hate electric grills or electric stoves, so this is going to take a little bit longer than I thought it would. But yeah, this is actually good. So that right there, you can see that that part's cooked. This part's still raw. Don't touch that part. Not a lot of batter. Over here, a lot of batter coming off. So that's kind of what you're looking for. So I'm going to use the spatula to kind of check the underneath. It's actually coming out really nice.
We also have
Yeah.
electric stoves, and our heat is already pretty high. Should we flip it already? Because I don't want to burn my pancake for you.
Yeah, so if you're looking for about that kind of, I'll flip mine so you can see what color you're looking for. Do you guys want me to flip it, or do you guys want me to use a spatula?
Flip it with the pan.
All right. I haven't done this in a minute, so if I embarrass myself, I'm blaming you. All right.
Whoa!
Ooh.
See, you didn't
That's
embarrass yourself, so it's not our fault.
I didn't. But this is the color you're looking for the first flip.
It looks
This is the initial
beautiful.
flip to get the color. Thank you. This is to get the color on it and everything. And then the second part is pretty much just for the finishing touches of the cooking.
How's everyone?
So should we turn our heat down?
Not yet.
Cooking going?
So after you flip it the first time, you're gonna cook it up for 2 more minutes on high heat, and then you're gonna turn it down to like medium to low heat. But you're gonna keep stirring it a little bit or swirling it around. You can use your spatula and press it down like that. And so after the 2 minutes, you're gonna turn your heat down. I'm not sure if you guys have a number on your dial or something, but if you do, you're looking for about a 1 to, or maybe like a 2 to cook the second flip after this. We're gonna check underneath to make sure that this is getting color too. That's getting some nice color. You guys will see that in a sec. So like I said, after the 2 minutes, we can flip it over again and finish this up.
I can
So,
see
I'm
Matt's pancake, but what about everybody else's? What do y'all's pancakes look like? Y'all
Oh yeah, let
cooking
me
it
go through
up?
this.
Y'all
Yours
chef
cooking.
it up?
Mine's chefing pretty well.
I know.
Oh, Joy, yours looks nice. Grace, are you cooking? No. Okay.
Yes.
So I'm gonna turn mine down. Maggie, I want to see yours.
Okay, here it is.
All right. Okay, that's good. All right, I'm gonna flip this again, and then we're gonna cook it on low for another 2 minutes, and then flip again for another 2 minutes after that. So that's the underside, or that's the side that we just cooked off. So now you're doing another 2 minutes on like low heat, and then you're gonna flip it one more time and do 2 minutes. Is anyone else cooking? Rachel, are you cooking too? Can I see yours?
Mine's split in half.
Oh, that's fine.
When I
I'm
was
a chef. I
cooking.
won't judge you too much.
All about the
I
taste,
see
not the
Mary
look.
cooking too.
We can all show Kristen after this what we made.
I restarted mine because mine got burnt.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
I made a little test one.
Are you keeping it on high heat?
Street food, Matt.
I'm sorry?
Kaylee, that test one looks great.
What's your favorite Korean street snack? Like fish cake?
My favorite is definitely tteokbokki.
You like your tteokbokki more spicy or sweet?
Spicy.
Spicy.
Yeah, that's
Sweet.
like
Sweet.
that's like my go-to first date if I'm cooking for them food. Not gonna lie. So we're gonna flip it one more time and let that cook on the other side. Ooh, mine almost broke too. 2 minutes on that side, and then we're gonna plate it up, cut it up, and eat it. All right, so this is almost done. All right, so this is actually finished now. So I'm gonna bring you back over here where it's not as hot because I have a fan blowing on me. This plate actually might not be big enough. So yeah, you're just gonna drop it right on there. Actually, it's a perfect fit. And if you use a nonstick pan and you cook it correct, your pan should be clean. Yeah, careful, the pan's probably a little hot. So when you actually like touch it and stuff, like, so there should be a little texture on the top, but it should still feel soft in the middle. And then, so you basically just cut it kind of like a pizza. Mine actually kind of broke as well. So whoever's broke, you're fine because mine broke too.
Don't
And if you
want
guys
to see
want
mine.
to, I do want to see
Like
yours.
burning, I think. You should probably take it off.
Hannah, how does it
Very
taste?
good.
I see you're nomming on it.
All right. So now it's all cooked. And it's still super hot, but I'm gonna try it anyway. That's bad.
Are you a person that eats your pancakes plain, or do you dip it in a sauce?
I usually dip it in the sauce, but I did not want to spend the money to buy the ingredients for the sauce. So I didn't. But I usually do like a little bit of soy sauce, sugar, mirin, what else? A little bit of koshigaru. Yeah, just like any kind of like soy sauce based sauce you can use for dipping sauces. But I'm gonna taste this now and see how it is. See if I did a good job. So I was right, it needed more salt, but they're still good. Yo, Michael, how did you become ambidextrous with chopstick? Because I need to learn how to do that.
I think it's like you just keep practicing with your hand, and then yeah.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I really need to work on that because that would be super awesome. Yo, Mary, yours looks great. Yeah, you got some good color on that.
Mine definitely needs more salt.
No, that's fine. Mine did too.
Mine's so like not.
Yo, Paige, yours looks really good too.
Mine's not salty enough.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Isabella, are you making it?
Yeah, I think I made it too thick though.
You made it too thick?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If that happens and you like if you put too much batter on, when you cook it on low heat, cook it for a little bit longer than the 2 minutes, the color looks great.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just not completely cooked all the way through.
Okay, so like the inside is a little battery still.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
It's
So
just a little bit, like it's edible. It's not.
Yeah. So that like to fix that, like instead of doing the 2 minutes, you could probably do it for like 3 or 4 minutes, and that should be fine.
Okay.
I saw, Matt, that you didn't completely like finely slice your scallions. Is it more traditional to just keep them in like chunks?
Yeah, pretty much. Like scallions in general, I love just big pieces of scallions. I got obviously like if your personal preference is smaller, like the great thing about a pancake like this is you can put whatever you want in it, and just make your own kind of pancake. Like you can put meat in there if you wanted to. Like there's like an octopus version that you can have, or a seafood one. You can put bulgogi in there. You can omit things, and you can also add things if you want. So you can literally do whatever pleases you with this. You can make it a little firmer by using a little less batter and thinning it out and cooking it pretty hard until it's really super crunchy. And then you could put mozzarella cheese on it and some other stuff, and you can kind of make a Pajeon pizza. That's very untraditional, but I'm not sure if you guys are lactose intolerant, but I am not. And that's just like delicious. Like cheese is just everything.
Of all the varieties of Pajeon that people usually have, like seafood, kimchi, I think all the other, whatever are the other ones, is kimchi your favorite, or do you have another one?
I mean, personally for me, kimchi is my favorite. So just a regular Pajeon, it's obviously it's not the orangey yellow hue that you have on this one because there's no kimchi in it. But like just a regular Pajeon is just scallions and then the batter. So it's a lot tastier. It's still tasty, but I like the little spice component to it.
Could you possibly share the recipe of the sauce you were talking about?
Yeah, so like the sauce itself that I use, so I use soy sauce. I honestly, I don't really have a recipe for it. I kind of just throw it all together. But I use soy sauce, sugar, mirin, and like koshigaru flakes.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. But so the first question that I saw, I guess I was still muted for that. When it comes to your pancake breaking. If you just put enough batter on and make it an even layer, and you let it thoroughly cook before you start moving it or before you flip it, you'll have a better chance of it not breaking. To be completely honest, I've been cooking for 12 years and mine broke. So don't take that as a negative that yours broke. And like, you're gonna cut it up anyway, so there's really no, as long as it's cooked and it tastes good, that's all that really matters. My dog is a red-nosed pit bull. He's 3 years old and he's a big baby. Maggie asked me how I got into cooking. So growing up, my family was very into cooking, even though my mom was not a great cook. She would make dinner almost every night. And growing up, it would be like, so I have one brother and two sisters, so I'm one of 4 siblings. If any of us had anything to do at night, my mom would make us wait to eat dinner until everyone got home. So I was always used to the fact that when it came to dinner, that was like family time. So we would always have to wait. And there are times where I started eating dinner at 6 o'clock at night, and there were times that I would eat dinner at 10 o'clock. So food was very important, and it really brought the family together, brought us closer. And I kind of wanted to take that and use it and make it a profession of mine as well. And I just loved cooking to begin with. I grew up watching the Food Network with my grandma. So that kind of really like kickstarted it. I started cooking in my parents' house when I was 9 years old. Decided that I wanted to be a chef by 10 years old, and then started actually working in professional kitchens at 16. So I've been doing this for almost 13 years now. So I saw another question. My older brother's adopted and my younger sister's adopted. My brother's from China. My brother's from Korea and my little sister's from China. I have an older sister who's biological to my parents. I started cooking professionally when I was 16. I started actually cooking with my family when I was 9. Pretty much as soon as my parents or my grandma let me use like a peeler, and then eventually they let me use a knife. I did go to cooking school, but I ended up dropping out. School wasn't really my type of thing. So I ended up just going to work. I don't have any other pets. My favorite aspect of cooking is definitely the fact that food brings people together. Let me actually go into the chat and see these other questions. Let's see. My favorite dish to cook. That's actually a tough one. I don't really actually know. I do like to make just regular plain old white rice with sesame oil, a fried rice, and some kimchi. I do not have any other pets. I don't actually know what province my sister's from. I probably should. That's really mean of me. Currently, I'm actually not cooking anywhere because of quarantine and everything. The restaurant that I worked at doesn't need enough people to work there, so me and my job kind of split ways. So now I'm kind of just taking a break and enjoying my free time and teaching you guys how to cook. You can find MSG in pretty much any sort of Asian grocery store. I found it at a Middle Eastern spice market in Philly. And it's like $4 for a little container of it. Other hobbies. I did enjoy watching sports. Favorite sports team. Good question and perfect timing. I'm a huge hockey fan, so obviously the Philadelphia Flyers are my favorite team. I may or may not have a tattoo of their logo on me. So actually, I just started really getting into the science behind a lot of foods and kind of like toying around with it and stuff. So there's I found out that there are components of watermelon that you can kind of manipulate the chemical makeup of it, and you can make it look, taste, and have the same texture as raw tuna. So if you guys follow me on Instagram, I'll put my Instagram on in the chat so you guys can follow me. but yeah, so the chemical makeup of watermelon, you can manipulate it to kind of act like raw meat. So I worked on a kind of like watermelon tartare to emulate tuna tartare. And you couldn't even tell the difference that it was watermelon. Like a lot of people that tried it thought it was just tuna. But I'll plug in my Instagram so you guys can follow me. Favorite gummy candy. Oof. I don't actually eat a lot of candy. I'm not that big on, especially gummy candy, because it makes my teeth feel weird because of all the sugar in it. So, but I mean, if I had to choose one, I lean probably more towards like Swedish Fish or Sour Patch Kids. Also, Joy, I cannot speak Korean, and I have not been back to Korea yet. I was actually supposed to go in October of this year, but COVID kind of ruined that for me. But maybe next year. What's the best thing I've made? I don't really know. I think that watermelon one was up there, definitely. But I guess the thing that I'm most proud of that I've made before, I spent 18 months developing a recipe for burrata, which is the type of cheese. And like I started from ground zero. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, did a lot of research online, went to a bunch of restaurants that sold it and kind of developed my own recipe. And it turned out really well. I probably, in the 18 months that it took me to develop that recipe, I probably went through 36 different recipes of my own to try and get the right ratio of everything. I'm pretty much a nerd when it comes to cheese. So I definitely took my time with that one. Favorite spice combination. Favorite spice combination. I like za'atar, which is a Middle Eastern spice of a bunch of different things. There's sumac in it. There's thyme, sesame seeds, salt, a bunch of different things in there. But it's just like, it's very unique flavor. Do I like seafood? Yes, I do like seafood. And what kind of seafood do I like? Anything except for bottom feeders and crustaceans. So I don't like lobster. I don't like shrimp. I don't like crabs. Just because I don't see the satisfaction of like breaking these shells and stuff just to get like 2 pieces of meat. Favorite fast food burger. I'm probably gonna have to go with Shake Shack. I'm not sure if you guys have Shake Shack out there, but Shake Shack is definitely superior than Five Guys, Smash Burger, or In-N-Out. Fake cheese. Well, I mean, I'm from Philly, so I guess Cheese Whiz. I don't like Cheese Whiz though. What makes a good Philly cheesesteak? Honestly, the roll is what makes a good Philly cheesesteak. You have to use an Amoroso roll. Favorite ramen flavor? So Samyang, which is a Korean ramyun. They make a very good spicy chicken cheese flavored ones. They destroy my stomach, but I love it. What language do I want? I want to learn Korean. No, don't support Chick-fil-A. But that's kind of just because of personal reasons more than anything. Let's see, other questions. Favorite restaurant in Philly?
Okay,
Ooh.
sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. I think
No,
we're
go for it.
about ready for our next workshop, but can we all give a big round of applause to Matt? I hope your dishes all turned out wonderful. They look delicious.
Everyone who made one, can we hold it up and I can take a picture? Ready? 1, 2, 3.
But if you do have other questions, I think Matt is going to stick around. Yeah, be sure to follow him on Instagram. Pork Chop also has an Instagram, so be sure to follow Pork Chop. And yeah, and get ready for our next keynote speaker.
Yeah, fantastic. Everyone, please give another round of applause to Matt. Matt, thank you so much for doing this work.
Thanks for having me, guys.